Part 1. The beginning. She always left the office last. That's what I noticed first. The lights would hum low, computers already asleep, the place carrying that hollow sound of a building trying to rest. And still, she stayed. Tonight was no different. I should have gone home an hour ago, but instead I lingered by my desk, pretending to sort files I didn't need. Truth was, I was waiting. Not for a reason, not for her really. At least that's what I told myself. But every time I caught her silhouette in the glass wall of her office, bent over papers, one hand cradling her temple, I felt something tug in me. She wasn't just my boss. She was her. When she finally stepped out, it was almost midnight. She carried her jacket folded over her arm instead of wearing it, as if the weight of it didn't matter anymore. I stood a little too quickly, fumbling with my bag like I'd been busy the whole time. "You're still here?" she asked, her voice low, almost amused. The kind of amused that hides concern. I shrugged. Deadlines. Or maybe I just like fluorescent lighting. Her mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile. Liar. The word was soft, but it hung between us longer than it should have. She walked past, heels muted against the carpet, and I caught the faint trace of her perfume. Something expensive, but quiet, like she never wanted it to announce her, only to stay close if you were already near. I followed her out, maybe too quickly, maybe too casually. The elevator doors opened, and we both stepped inside. It was the kind of silence that felt loud, like the small space was holding its breath with us. Her reflection in the stainless steel doors, tired eyes, but sharp. A woman who knew exactly how much space she took up and how little she wanted anyone to read her. I shifted, trying not to stare, but failing. She caught me. Not directly, but in that way older people do, without turning her head, without saying anything, just knowing. I coughed, desperate to fill the silence. "You work too much." She raised a brow. "And you don't." "I'm 24. It's allowed." I stopped. Her head tilted slightly. "Go on." I swallowed, heat crawling up my neck. "You're supposed to know better." There was a pause. For a second, I thought she might laugh, or snap, or just ignore me. But instead, she leaned back against the wall of the elevator and studied me. Really studied me, like I'd just said something dangerous. Then, quietly, she said, "You're playing with fire." My mouth went dry. I could have looked away. I should have. But instead, I let the corner of my lip curve up, something reckless spilling out before I could stop it. "Then burn with me." The words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise her. Her eyes flickered. Not anger, not shock exactly, but something harder to read. Something that felt like she hadn't expected anyone to say that to her in years. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open to the empty lobby, fluorescent light bleeding into marble. Neither of us moved right away. I gripped the strap of my bag tighter, waiting, hoping, regretting. And then her phone buzzed in her hand. One look at the screen, and her expression changed. Stiffened. Whatever air we'd been holding between us cracked open. She slipped the phone back into her jacket pocket without answering. Then she finally stepped out, her heels striking the lobby floor, not once looking back. I followed, but slower this time. Because whatever message she had just read, it had already changed everything. The next morning, I tried to focus on the spreadsheets glowing across my monitor, but all I could see was the way she'd looked at me in the elevator. Not anger, not disapproval. Something else, sharper, heavier, like a secret she didn't want me to see. She hadn't mentioned it since. Of course she hadn't. She was the kind of woman who drew lines with silence instead of words. Still, I caught myself watching her office door, waiting for her to glance my way. I told myself it was just curiosity. That I didn't want her the way I wanted women my age. That this was just intrigue. But then she came out of her office, glasses perched on her nose, hair tied back too tightly. And I knew I was lying to myself. At lunch, I ended up in the break room at the same time she did. Just us. She was stirring sugar into her coffee, slow and deliberate. I was fumbling with a paper cup. "You look tired," I said before I could stop myself. She glanced up. "You should see the mirror behind you." I turned instinctively. She was right. Dark circles, a faint shadow of stubble, like I hadn't really slept. I laughed awkwardly, running a hand across my jaw. "Late night?" she asked, and the way she said it made me think she wasn't just asking about work. Sort of. Couldn't sleep. Too much caffeine. Too much thinking. Her spoon clinked against the mug, but she didn't look at me. That's dangerous. I wanted to ask her what she thought about when she couldn't sleep, but the words stuck. Instead, I said, "You married?" The silence that followed was heavier than any answer. She finally set her coffee down and faced me. "Divorced. 10 years now." I nodded, pretending I hadn't already guessed. The way she carried herself, careful, private, it had always felt like someone who'd once given too much and been burned. She tilted her head slightly. "And you? Girlfriend?" "No, not since college." "Why not?" I smirked, though it felt more like deflection. "Too much thinking, maybe." She studied me, lips pressed together, then took her mug and walked toward the door. But halfway out, she paused. "My daughter's older than you," she said quietly, not turning back. That landed harder than I expected. A reminder. A boundary. The taboo spelled out between us in the simplest way. But then she did something that unraveled me. She reached back with her free hand and tugged the hair tie loose. Her hair fell across her shoulders, softer, less composed. And for a second, before she left the room, she let me see her not as my boss, not as someone's mother, but as a woman who hadn't been touched in a long time. She didn't say another word. She didn't need to. And I knew then, the fire she warned me about wasn't just mine. It started with a knock on her office door. Sharp, impatient. I froze at my desk, glancing up just in time to see him. A man in his late 40s, suit wrinkled from the day, tie hanging loose. He didn't wait to be invited in. He just pushed the door open and stepped inside. Her ex-husband. I didn't need an introduction to know. I tried not to listen, but the walls were too thin. His voice, loud, cutting. Hers, lower, calmer, but with an edge. Something about money. Something about their daughter. Something about how she was always hiding in this place. I hated the way he stood too close to her desk, leaning in like he still owned her space. I hated even more the way she folded her arms, shoulders stiff, enduring him like an old wound she'd stopped expecting to heal. The door shut hard when he left. She stayed inside for a long while after, blinds drawn. When she finally emerged, her lipstick was smudged at the corner, but not from him, from pressing her lips together too tightly. Her eyes swept the office and landed on me. "You didn't hear any of that," she said. "Not a question, a command, right?" I said, though we both knew I had. She sighed, rubbing the bridge of her nose. "I'm sorry you had to." "Don't." I cut in, sharper than I meant. "Don't apologize for him." Her gaze sharpened, caught somewhere between surprise and warning. I stood before I could think better of it. "You deserve better than someone who barges in here like that. You deserve—" "Stop." Her voice cracked across the space. Not loud, but final. I did. But I didn't move. Neither did she. For a moment, the office felt too small again. Her hand gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles white, like she needed the wood to keep her steady. I stepped closer, not touching, just close enough to feel the static of something we weren't supposed to name. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "If anyone saw us, they didn't. You can't know that." "I don't care." The words slipped out before I could stop them. And in the silence that followed, her breath caught. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd let me close the gap, that maybe we'd finally cross it. My hand twitched at my side, fingers aching to reach hers. Then her phone buzzed again. The spell broke. She stepped back, just far enough. "Go home," she said. I should have. But instead I lingered in the doorway, watching her tuck her hair behind her ear with trembling fingers. And I realized she wanted me to leave. But she wanted me to stay, too. The office was empty again, long past hours. I told myself I was staying late for work, but the untouched spreadsheet on my screen betrayed me. What I was really doing was waiting, again. Her light was still on. Through the glass wall, I saw her hunched over, pen in hand, the faint crease between her brows deepening. I couldn't sit anymore. I stood, crossed the floor, and knocked softly. She didn't look up. "It's open." I stepped in. She was surrounded by papers, but I could tell she hadn't been reading for a while. She stared at the same page like it might swallow her whole. "You should go home," she said, still not looking at me. "Maybe I don't want to." That made her glance up. Her eyes were tired, rimmed with shadows, but sharp. "Careful. You keep saying things you can't take back." "I don't regret any of them." Her pen stilled. For a second, I thought she might laugh, but instead she set it down and leaned back in her chair, studying me the way she had in the elevator, like she was measuring how much trouble I was worth. "You think this is a game?" she asked. "No," I stepped closer, voice low. "I think I've never wanted someone this much." Her lips parted, not in surprise, but in something closer to fear. She shook her head. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly. Her hand twitched on the desk, like she almost reached for me, then pulled back. You're too young, she whispered. I'm not a kid. You're my employee. Then fire me. The words hung in the air, reckless, impossible. I meant them anyway. Her breath hitched. She pushed back from the desk and stood, suddenly too close, the space between us charged and dangerous. You don't understand the risk. My reputation, my daughter, everything I've built, isn't enough to make you happy. I cut in, softer now, almost pleading. That silenced her. Completely. For a moment, neither of us moved. The hum of the building filled the space, fluorescent lights buzzing like they, too, were waiting for what came next. I reached out, not touching, just letting my hand hover near hers on the desk, close enough to feel the warmth, close enough that she had to feel it too. Her eyes locked on mine, and in them, I saw it. The fire she kept trying to smother, the one she warned me about. Her lips parted like she might say something, a confession, a surrender, maybe even a yes. But before she could, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Both our heads snapped toward the door. She pulled her hand back, spine straightening, mask snapping back into place. Go, she whispered, urgent now, almost panicked. I didn't move. Not yet. Because for the first time, I was sure of one thing. She wanted me to stay. The footsteps faded, and we both exhaled like we'd been holding the same breath. I started to speak, but her phone lit up again on the desk. A name flashed across the screen. I froze. Her daughter. The message preview glowed in plain sight. Mom, who's the guy you're always working late with? I saw him leaving last night. She snatched the phone up too quickly, thumbs swiping the screen dark. But it was too late. I'd seen enough. Her face went pale. You need to leave. Now. I stepped closer instead. She knows. She suspects, she snapped, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Then, quieter. And that's enough. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about what we looked like to everyone else. About her daughter, who was only a handful of years older than me. She pressed a hand to her temple. If she tells her father, then what? I asked, heat in my voice. What's the worst that happens? People gossip? You lose your job? I lose mine. Is that enough to erase what's happening here? Her jaw clenched, and for the first time, she looked at me not like her boss, not like a woman fighting herself, but like someone cornered. You don't understand. I already lost everything once. I won't do it again. I wanted to tell her she wouldn't lose me, that this time would be different. But the words sounded naive, even in my head. Instead, I asked, so what are you saying? That this ends here? Her silence was an answer in itself. I laughed, bitter, running a hand through my hair. Funny. You warned me about fire, but you're the one afraid to get burned. She flinched like I'd struck her. And maybe I had. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of the lights, the faint echo of an elevator door down the hall. Everything filled the space except us. Finally, she whispered, go home. Please. I should have, but I didn't. I leaned across her desk, close enough that she had to lift her eyes to meet mine. You can lie to her. You can lie to yourself. But don't lie to me. You feel this. Her lips parted, breath uneven. Her hand gripped the edge of the desk again, like she was holding herself back from something she wanted. Then, faintly, almost broken, I don't know how to stop. The words slammed through me, heavier than any confession could have been. I reached for her hand, finally closing the space between us, my fingers brushing hers. And just then, her office door swung open. Her daughter stood there, frozen in the doorway. Her daughter's voice was the first to break the silence. Mom. The sound of it gutted her. I felt her hand snap back from mine, her entire body straightening like she could erase what had almost happened if she just stood tall enough. I turned, words tangled in my throat. The girl, not a girl, really, closer to my age than her mother's, stared at us with the sharpness of someone who'd already guessed and was now watching it confirmed. Her mother's voice was steady, too steady. It's late. What are you doing here? I was supposed to meet Dad, she said, eyes flicking toward me. But I guess you were busy. That word, busy, landed like a blade. I took a step forward. It's not. Don't. Her mother hissed under her breath, not looking at me. The daughter crossed her arms, jaw tight. So it's true. Her mother pressed her lips together, silence louder than any denial. And me? I wanted to tell the truth, reckless as it was. To say yes. I love her. I don't care what it looks like. But I couldn't. Not with her standing there, caught between protecting herself and protecting me. Her daughter's eyes brimmed with something like betrayal. He's my age, Mom. That broke her. I saw it. The crack in her mask, the shame she'd been carrying long before I ever showed up. Finally, she spoke. You should go wait in the car. The girl shook her head, disgust flashing across her face. But she turned and left anyway, the door shutting harder than necessary. The silence she left behind was unbearable. Her hands trembled as she pressed them flat against the desk. This is over. My chest tightened. You don't mean that. I do. Her voice cracked, though, betraying her. I can't do this. Not with her. Not with what? I cut in. With people talking? With your ex breathing down your neck? You think I care about any of that? Her eyes finally met mine, wet but unflinching. You should. I shook my head. All I care about is you. For a moment, the world shrank down to that. Just us, everything else burning at the edges. And then, quietly, she said the thing she'd been holding back for weeks. You make me feel alive. And that terrifies me. Her confession knocked the air out of me. I reached for her again, slower this time, fingers brushing hers. This time, she didn't pull away. We stood there, suspended in something neither of us could name. Not safety, not certainty, just raw truth. Then she whispered, go. Before I changed my mind. I wanted to fight, to stay, to demand more. But I thought about the way her mother's hand had clung to mine even as she told me to leave. By Friday, I couldn't take the pretending anymore. After hours, I walked straight into her office without knocking. She didn't look up at first. You shouldn't be here. I know, I said. But I am. Finally, she raised her eyes. Tired, guarded, beautiful in a way that hurt. I've made my choice, she said softly. And my throat was tight. Her breath caught. I can't lose her trust. Not again. Not for this. The words stung. But beneath them, I caught something else. The faintest tremor, the way her fingers curled against the edge of the desk. I don't. The room tilted. Relief and they collided in my chest. I reached for her hand again, and this time she didn't resist. Then we figure it out, I said. Quietly, carefully, but together. Her lips trembled. You don't know what you're asking. Maybe not, I admitted. But I know what I feel. And for the first time, she let herself lean into me. Not a kiss, not yet, but the weight of her head against my chest, the kind of closeness that felt like surrender. We stood like that for a long while, letting the quiet hold us. Not safe, not certain, but real. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were shining. You're going to ruin me, she whispered. I smiled faintly. Or save you. The words lingered between us, fragile and dangerous, but alive. We didn't solve everything that night. We didn't erase her daughter's anger, or her ex's shadow, or the gossip that might follow. But we chose not to lie anymore. Not to ourselves. And maybe that was enough for now. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?